help us just try to understand what you think the implications of this are, and frankly, how this ends up playing out in the larger context of this trade war between the U.S. and China.
Andrew, that's a great question, because there's often that tendency to associate the investigation and potential criminal prosecution specifically with the trade war. The fact is, in the United States, as we know, prosecutions, criminal investigations in particular, are driven by the merits of the allegations. What's particularly unique here, and particularly in the Economic Espionage Act of 1996 derived investigations, is we're seeing more and more of the civil litigation involving thefts of intellectual property driving a criminal investigation. And I think that's really what has occurred here, which is the information has come out of the civil litigation. To me, there's no question this is part of the trade war, but this investigation is going to stand on its merits. The most important message from my perspective, particularly when you're counseling boards of directors, is theft of intellectual property is very much a hot topic, and the timing of the news of this investigation, whether there is or is not ultimately a criminal prosecution, I think there very likely could be one, and this could potentially be the highest profile prosecution of a company under the Economic Espionage Act of 1996. The fact is, this is a topic that should be part of board discussions, audit committee discussions, during the meetings around this time of year, along with the other hot topics. So it's a good reminder, and there's certainly a hope that a prosecution investigation in this profile.
Just to put a fine point on it, you don't put this as a chess piece in this larger debate, if not fight, with China. And the reason I ask is because people have looked at the arrest of the CFO in Canada as a chess piece in that fight. We saw how ZTE was used in the fight thus far.
I do not, because this case has really been sort of in the courts for a long time. It certainly is put on the chessboard and will be discussed that way. But the fact is, for there to be a criminal investigation, that means there have to be allegations that rise to the level of potential criminality. And I think we've seen that here, and that's why this is being pursued. I think the DOJ, despite the fact that that there is the possibility that obviously priorities are set by the administration, and we also have to remember that even that the president during the campaign set a zero tolerance policy for intellectual property theft from China. But specifically as a chess piece, it's on the board, it's being put on the board, but I don't think that's what's actually driving this investigation.
Do you think that Huawei is going to be able to sell in the United States long term?
That's really the trade question. I do think, particularly with the legislation that's been introduced on the Hill, I think that could be challenging. But I also think that if you talk to people who are into the intellectual property space, particularly in the mobile telecommunications space, I think there's been a recognition for a long time that the relationship between Huawei and the Chinese government is one that caused those who understand the industry to stay away from Huawei products. But I do think I do think that there could be limitations imposed, and that's where the chess game does come into play.
Real quick, Huawei's founder came out publicly, spoke for the first time, said, "We're not spies. We don't do this." My answer is our investigations are driven by the merits. If there's a criminal prosecution, that means U.S. federal prosecutors believe that there is information, that there is evidence that would be sufficient for a jury to return a conviction. I think what we have to see is there a charging document, and what does it allege? But if you look at the purpose of the Economic Espionage Act, there potentially is a basis here for a prosecution. Fair enough.